Back when the Xbox and PlayStation 2 were duking it out, there was one area where Microsoft had a comfortable lead: online multiplayer games. Sony's answer to this was Socom, a tactical shooter that was nearly the sole reason to hook your PS2 up to the internet. With PSN going strong, Socom Confrontation comes as no surprise. But would it be a pleasant one? The story here is, well, there is no story. Socom has always leaned heavily towards multiplayer, so for Socom Confrontation, the developers completely ditched the single-player campaign, including all the narrative and character-heavy trappings that usually come with it. Nothing fancy here, just two sides, Commando and Mercenary. One will win and one will lose. For an online-focused shooter, Confrontation is fairly complete in terms of features. You can customize your Commando or Mercenary character in any way you like, outfitting him with your standard arsenal of weaponry, body armor, and more. Things like weight and bulk presumably have an effect on speed and movement, but it's honestly hard to tell in the game. Weapon loadouts can be customized before you enter a match, and the choice of weaponry is pretty impressive. You can outfit your character with close to 30 different kinds of primary weapons, like assault rifles, submachine guns, shotguns, and of course sniper rifles. Each with different stats covering range, rate of fire, damage, accuracy, and more. You can further customize your weapons by adding attachments like scopes, laser sights, and silencers. The exact kind of attachments available depends on the weapon you're using. You can also load up your soldier with different colored smoke grenades and a variety of explosive ordnance like frag grenades, C4, and claymores. It's about as in-depth as it gets and needs to be. Once you're ready to actually play, there are several flavors of multiplayer matches, including Team Deathmatch, Zone Control, Breach, where the commandos infiltrate mercenary territory in order to destroy an objective, and Hostage Escort. There's also Demolition Mode, an interesting take on CTF that uses bombs instead of flags.
The enemy has planted the bomb!
The 7 maps that ship with the game are all large and diverse, with some, like Crossroad, making an appearance from previous games in the series. The maps have smaller scaled versions for when you're playing with fewer than the 32-person maximum. Confrontation has a wealth of online matchmaking, ranking, and clan management options. For the solo player, it's relatively easy to pop into a match and have a good time. For serious team players, you can create a clan, complete with insignia, and play against other teams in tournament and ladder matches. There's also an in-game calendar to help you keep track of your gaming appointments. Whether you're playing alone or as a team, Confrontation tracks your gaming stats in a variety of ways, so you can see how well you really stack up against the competition. The lack of a single-player option is disappointing, but few have become fans of Socom while playing alone. The gameplay is pretty tried and true. There's nothing uniquely groundbreaking going on here. Once you're in the game, it's easy to appreciate the competent multiplayer experience. Things like moving about and firing weapons are very responsive. And your weapons loadout can really make a difference. Taking a shotgun is really only advisable if you plan on defending a small area or location, as it's basically worthless in an assault situation. A smart team will coordinate to make sure they have the right weapons mix to get the job done. And if things aren't working out, you're not tied to one kind of weapon for the entire game. You can switch out between rounds and after you die. There are, however, some peculiarities in the way the game controls. More subtle actions like aiming and leaning can be a problem. Prior versions of Socom utilized the D-pad for leaning around corners. In Confrontation, this action is mapped to the flaky 6-axis control, meaning you have to tilt your controller in order to lean. It doesn't work well. Now, the D-pad is used for zooming and camera positioning, which works okay. Weapon switching is done via a pop-up radial menu, which is a real pain to use in the middle of a firefight. The maps are well thought out, providing players with plenty of places to hide, snipe, and set up choke points. However, in matches when there are fewer than 32 players, even the smaller versions of the maps feel somewhat empty. The good news is that there are tons of people playing online most of the time. Navigating through the hundreds of games being played is simple, as everything is broken up into channels that you can join based on criteria like real-world location or rank. This assures a smooth connection and play experience, at least in theory. We've had some pretty serious issues with connection and lag. Games get dropped or play becomes unresponsive. A patch was recently released to fix these issues, but it's still a problem. On the whole, Socom Confrontation offers little in the way of surprise, but as an online tactical shooter, it holds its own. The connection issues are disappointing, but Sony should eventually get them ironed out.
Put another one down.
Confrontation doesn't appear to be pushing the PS3 hardware at all. The maps are clean and well lit, and the large maps have a huge draw distance, which helps if you like to snipe. Yet figuring out what is and isn't interactive can be a pain. Things like vehicles on the street, which are there purely for show, will blow up if you shoot them enough, but mopeds act like immobile, indestructible objects. You can purchase Socom Confrontation with or without a Bluetooth headset, and we have to say that the headset greatly enhances the experience.
Looks like last is our last hope.
When you speak through it normally, any player that's nearby will be able to hear you. Push a button on your controller, and you can privately chat with your team. You can get by playing without, but a lot of players will instantly boot you if you don't have one. Socom Confrontation is a fairly safe bet if all you're looking for is a by-the-numbers online tactical shooter. Without a single-player campaign to add some flavor, the game does come off as kind of generic. But it plays well, and perhaps most importantly, there are a lot of other people playing online. If networked competition is your thing, Socom Confrontation is worth a look.